I did just want to really thank our two guest speakers and to say how important I think it is that we're having this debate here today. And I'm really glad that I've got the opportunity to be able to underline the Green Party's long-standing commitment really to the whole principle of just transition. That, for example, in the most recent European election manifesto, we absolutely enshrine that principle there as a real key element of our political programme. Alongside the commitment for this million jobs, we'll know that much of the European election campaign was framed in terms of green jobs, working very closely with the people that had been putting together the Green New Deal report and coming up with concrete examples of what those jobs could be and how we'd go about creating them.
And what the science community, who are generally very conservative, have discovered is that the planet is responding rather more quickly to this impact of carbon dioxide emissions than we had expected. I'm a scientist, and I guess there are 3 points that I'd make about climate change. The first is that the scientific evidence is robust. That is, that humans are the dominant force, a changing climate at present, and that since our society is tuned to the climate that we've experienced over the last 10,000 years or so, since the last ice age, that carries with it a number of threats. Secondly, although we don't know exactly how those climate changes will play out in the future, we know that we're going to have to decarbonise the world's energy supply. Society relies on that energy supply. There are a lot of technological solutions, but we also know that we need social solutions as well, changing expectations, changing the way we live.
I think it's really important to recognise that climate change isn't just an environmental issue, it's the most important social issue that we're likely to face. That means that it's crucial to be talking with workers, for example, in the trade union movement, about how we're going to make this incredibly important transition to a post-carbon future. I think it's really important that we work with them to make sure that workers are in the forefront of discussing how to make that change, what kind of retraining they might need, what kind of support they're going to need. And one of the things that we've been doing in the European Parliament is to put down what's called a written declaration. Basically, it's like an early day motion in the British Parliament to say that we believe that right across Europe there should be a right for workers to stand and have time off to do the job properly as a green workplace representative. That means that workers in their workplace will be really taking the lead, both on greening the workplace as it stands, but also, crucially, in defining that kind of transition that we need to make to a world where we're not dependent on fossil fuels, where the kind of work that people are doing is constructive work, but crucially also sustainable work as well.
In terms of a just transition, if we're going to define it and make it meaningful and capture the public imagination, to capture the support of union members and build the alliances that I've talked about, it is about defending public services as a means of achieving social justice. It is about a proper programme of investment in green jobs. Well, in order to make the social progress we need, I would argue we need to reject the fatalism and defeatism that has afflicted political debate for far too long, and to reinstate the idea that it is possible to make a change, and that needs to be, I would argue, the principle that underlies any serious campaign around the question of just transition.
PCS, the Public and Commercial Services Union, has become increasingly active around the issues of climate change and reflecting, I think, a growing awareness amongst our membership of the devastating impact of our reliance on the burning of fossil fuels, and also reflecting a growing recognition, not just in PCS, but across the trade union movement, that the unions need to play a role around the issue of the day.
I think it's really important to recognise that the agenda for this transition to a low-carbon future isn't just going to be good for the environment, it's going to be good for jobs as well. That's why, for example, the Greens have been promoting the idea of a Green New Deal, a massive investment in energy efficiency, renewable energy, not just because that's going to be absolutely crucial in terms of addressing climate change, but also because it's one of the best and fastest ways of getting people back to work. So the message has to be, I think, that the kinds of industries that we're going to need in a post-carbon world are far more jobs intensive than the fossil fuel economies that they replace.
So the final point I'd make is that we're all in this together, and that whether you divide society up into government, corporations and people, or managers, workers and finance, whatever it is, if those become silos and if one lot begins to demonise the other, that's going to be wholly unhelpful. We have to break down those barriers. If there are institutionalised problems in the system and the way the financial system works or whatever it is, we have to address those together. That's the only way we're going to make progress in what is a really urgent, pressing issue. We need to start making progress now.